Welcome to I Finally Get It. This week we have Jeffrey Benton, an expert EOS implementer. In studio with me as always, Dustin Webb, our producer. I'm your host, Jeff Martin. Let's get it.
I finally get that after close to 1,000 session days working with clients and their senior leadership teams, 8-hour days, getting into the really nitty-gritty, hard discussions, being open and honest and vulnerable, I finally get that my people are cray-cray. And guess what? You're my people. I'm your people.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got families. They're our people.
It's the people that don't admit they're crazy. It's the ones I worry about, right?
Yeah.
Because we're all a little weird in our own little ways, right?
It's like a celebration. Like we're going to celebrate, hey, the fact that we're all a little wacko, you know? And sometimes now most of the time we might be very normal and everything, but then sometimes we just go wacko and the way that we think about the world is crazy, and then it comes out in our behavior. Definitely happens all day at work.
At work, yeah. I mentioned in the intro that you're an EOS implementer, and you have reached the designation of expert EOS, and you've had almost 1,000 working days as implementer. When you're all said and done, you're dealing with these leadership teams. Where do you see the most cray-cray?
Interestingly, is the cray-cray is kind of where you want to get to. So we're in, just imagine your room, you've got 7 people on the leadership team, and you're making sure everything's on track, your numbers, your objectives, your goals, and everything. And then you get to the problem where you're solving issues. And right there is you want that cray-cray to come out in a sense that you want to be open and honest and vulnerable.
And actually be authentic, because if the cray-cray doesn't come out, you're hiding something, right? Yeah. That's outstanding.
To put it in perspective is when you can get so open and honest about your own cray-cray, you can say, someone walks into your office and, hey, Jeff, I need to talk to you. And you can go, hold on. I just want you to know that my fatigue is about a 9. My boundaries are about a 2. And my self-esteem left the building yesterday when I lost that client.
Yeah.
Okay, now what do you have to tell me?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, I'll come back later.
Yeah, exactly. or they'll bring it down to where, you can hear it and they can deal with it. What's your background? I know you had done all kind of stuff before you found EOS.
So started out helping to found the company with my brother. He was starting a company right out of college. I was right out of college. It was called PreSonus Audio Electronics.
They've done pretty well.
Yeah, did extremely well over the years. And then from there, I did a lot of specialty lending for banks. Yeah. I was a commercial lender at a bank. I was a chief financial officer of a company that made explosion-resistant buildings.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. After that, I did Dale Carnegie training for 5 years. I just wanted to do something different and entrepreneurial. Yeah. And until I found EOS. And then when I saw EOS, I was like, well, I'm going to do that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, because it has such an impact.
So when you found EOS, what was it that drew you in and said, oh, this is it?
Having been in business and on leadership teams, is that there was a lot of pain associated with it because no one's really taught to run a great business. And so when we started out with PreSonus, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. You can have a PhD in business and still not have a clue of how to run a great business. Yeah. And so when I saw just this simple framework, and it was back then, 10 years ago, it wasn't as big as it is today or as well known, the simple framework. I just said, if that works, I will do that forever. When you think about it, it's going to change the quality of the lives for the owners, for the staff. The staff will go home happier. It'll affect their lives. It'll affect the vendors. It'll affect the customers, obviously. And so that's when I saw that. I was like, oh, wow, please let that work. And then I tried it and it worked. So.
It works. And just a little bit of information. You and I did it together for a couple of years. And I love the program. I love it. And I love that it's gotten so popular and so many companies are running on EOS. It's huge. Yeah. But I want to kind of go back to cray-cray.
Okay, let's go there.
Some days I feel a little crazy. When did you start kind of feeling, look, whether it's your company or your company, you could say my people are cray-cray. But you gotta embrace the cray-cray. You gotta love everybody, and you gotta work with everybody. Yeah. So how'd that come about?
And let me get kind of more personal here. Is having a foundation of mom died when I was 2. Dad remarried. It just caused issues for when you're a little child and when your mom kind of abandons you. Yeah, sure. Even though she dies. And so I struggled with a lot of stuff, including low self-esteem, and I spent $1 bazillion on therapy. and meeting with psychologists. And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. You go in and they look at you and they say, well, Jeff, are you feeling like this? And I'm like, yeah. Okay. And this is the way it comes out in your behavior. Yeah. And then when this happens, your thought process like this. Like, yeah, how'd you know that?
Yeah.
And so I got into it. And I actually, one of my first major in college was psychology. Over time, I picked it up, and the Cray thing, I was like, wow, this is all through business, and nobody wants to even acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So let's make it normal. Let's make it not necessarily fun to talk about, but let's just make it like relaxed. And hey, yes, I did that. That was stupid. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Or at least I was an idiot for a moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are you going to do with it? I think we have some books in the works, or what you going to be doing with it?
The intent is to give talks, to do the books, and then to do maybe some video blogs, and just little nuggets that are out there. And so when you normalize this fact that sometimes we can be weird, right?
Yeah, sure.
Then it's much easier to talk to. And so I can, just as an overview, you're at work and then somebody gives an explosive response to a comment that didn't really merit that much. An explosive response.
It's awkward
right?
real quick.
Sandy cowers when asked a question about her department, just fearing embarrassment and being judged in a negative way. Well, that comes from another place that's been chasing her through life, and she's in there. That's not necessarily the most emotionally healthy. You've heard of that. There's the highly functional, emotionally healthy adult. Mm-hmm. That concept. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of books about it in the library. Mm-hmm. You need to go look in the fiction section. Okay?
To find it. Yeah.
Like Ricky always has to be right and wants to be seen as the smartest person in the room.
A lot those of Rickies are out there.
Yeah. Those are the kind of like, gosh, come on. Why, where someone who's got, for a fairly healthy mindset, you can identify it. It comes from 5 places, right? And I say five areas of our lives. So when we're interacting right here, you're getting things, okay, where and where I was born, who raised me, what was the environment? Because if it's different from being Mamu than it is from being from Japan, sure. Right? Your whole perspective of the world, that's one thing. The second thing is your brain design. Like if you ever looked at Myers-Briggs or the DISC profile or predictive index, or you look at, we all have these natural tendencies the way our brains think. Then you have trauma. So my trauma was my mom dying, right? But there's like this huge percentage of people have trauma. So like, for example, divorce, 50% or more of the relationships in America end up in a divorce. Yeah. Traumatic for a child, right?
Yeah.
So if I found out that my son got, I don't know, in trouble at school or expelled from school, it will affect me. For days and days and days. And then the last thing is physiological. And so physiological is that just if I got drunk last night or I have COVID or you have, whatever, you're dealing with whatever. And so those things are, put those together. And then now this is who we have at this moment is a combination of those things.
And even one of those 5 things, puts you on a path to act a certain way or behave.
Exactly.
But, when you think about 50% of marriages end in divorce, and you have 2 or 3 kids.
Yeah.
2 or 3 kids are out there. They're going to deal with some sort of trauma, and physiologically, they have things going on. I know left-handed people think way different than right-handed people. It's a funny thing that I've just observed. And so when you add up 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 5 things, then at times we have a chance of acting a little cray-cray.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so
even one thing can trigger the crazy.
One to all 5. And so we're loaded weapons out there. Right? So what happens when I act a little cray-cray? What do you do, or how do you coach people to receive me or correct me or whatever I need to do?
There's a lot to answer that question. But one thing is the concept of boundaries that it's like this should have been taught in grade school and high school and again. And so, and it was described to me like this, and it's pretty powerful. Okay, my wife Denise, let's hypothetically, okay, let's say I forgot to take out the trash 3 weeks in a row. Didn't happen, but just hypothetically.
Yeah, I think I know Denise, and
so if so I walk in and she says, "Jeffrey, you idiot, you forgot to take out the trash another time." Okay, so there's a dagger flying through the air towards me.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's hypothetical. I'm saying hypothetical because I don't want her to get mad at me.
Stop the dagger before it goes.
So the dagger's coming at me. And if you don't have any boundaries, it's going to go boom and it's going to hit you in the chest. And you're going to do one of three things. Where typically, if you're not coming from an emotionally healthy place, then you're going to go one up and say, I'm an idiot. Let me tell you what you are. Or you're going to go one down and go, gosh, I can't get my life together. I'm an idiot.
Maybe I am an idiot. Yeah.
And so, but that's not emotionally healthy, functional, right? The healthy part is you had that boundary, you slowed it down and you caught it and you said, look at that dagger. What does it say? You're an idiot. Okay. I'm not an idiot. I know that part's not true. She must be mad about something for sure. And it says, you didn't take out the trash. I said, ooh, I got to own that. You're right. And so not going one up or one down, you're just here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you can respond in a way, hey, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't do that. I need to better do my schedule or something. It hadn't been on my radar. Please don't call me an idiot again. That doesn't feel good at all. So to answer your question there, that we have to manage our own cray and have those great boundaries. So that way we can respond, right? And then you can respond, hey, come see. Now, my communication style is between Larry the Cable Guy and Ted Lasso. Okay. I'm goofy, but I do believe in the simplicity of articulation.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And so when you think about the articulation,
I love that. That's great. Oh, I get it. I finally get it. Here at Company Growth Academy, we've begun teaching 20-minute growth strategies. They're free, they're fast, and they're full of information to help you grow your company. For more information and to sign up for our advanced notification list, just go to 20togrow.com, 20togrow.com. Let's get it.
You can say, hey, and I'm going to use these words because you don't ever hear it in business. Hey, I love you to death, right? And you do an amazing job on just about everything. That right there, you're going to have to work on because nobody likes it when you do that. The simplicity of conversation, the simplicity of articulation. I saw Alan Mulally, who was an executive at Boeing and turned Boeing around, and then he came and took over Ford.
Yeah.
And he turned Ford around when I think the first quarter he was there, I think they lost $5 billion. And so he came in to turn it around. His mother taught him this every day. The purpose in life is to love and be loved, in that order. To serve is to live, and it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. Well, when I saw him speak once, and he said that, and he said every day his mom would drill it into him, so he took it into business.
Yeah,
and so,
sure.
So he turned Ford around where they were losing billions and to make to billions of dollars in profit. I mean, he really changed it. And he, at one point in 2006, he gave a speech to 4,000 Ford employees, but he made the corporate workers face the car dealers. There were thousands of them, and say, "We love you."
Yeah.
I need loud enough. Say it again. We love you. Right. So incorporating that concept of love, which is the secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
Companies don't like to use that word because it has all kinds of other meanings. But in regards to when someone like you go to a fancy hotel, they're being loving. Hey, what can I do for you? Can I get that for you?
Yeah, sure.
Is that working?
Serving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what do they do? And so what does that person go? And how does that person go home? Well, they feel excited. They've been loving on people all day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so do the people who are receiving it. But nonetheless, back to the point, you got to have that concept in your heart. I genuinely care about this person. But it's not like when we're kids. Hey, Jill, your little kids, Jack and Jill. Hey, Jill, what are you doing when you grow up? I want to be an ass when I grow up. Really? You too? Well, we can learn from the coach at school and we can learn from the people at church or whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of a joke, but nobody decides to do that.
Correct.
Right? It's a collection of where they came from and what they experienced and so forth. It may be a perfect model of their parents because that's the way they were.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So now you have your mindset, love this person. Now I've got this mindset of being just empathetic that we're cray.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it like that, now you can respond accordingly. And it's not always just being nice in a sense. Sometimes you have to fire people. Hey, I love you to death. This isn't a great fit for you. And sometimes it's to their benefit.
Oh, no. You're actually releasing them into doing what they were
Yeah.
best suited to do.
We say,
There's so much that you had in about the last 5 minutes. When you started off, as your response, you said, hey, I love you to death, but we don't like the way you're doing this. You need to do it differently. You're clear.
Yeah.
You start off with I love you to death. You're really clear in the way you communicate. You talked about boundaries early.
Yeah.
And that's wildly important. The example with Denise and the dagger.
Yeah.
And having a boundary set up. And I'm going to tell you that in business, people step on toes and people go into your boundaries and do the things that you want to do. And so we naturally think, well, they want to get credit for doing something better than me or whatever it might be. But that's a big problem in business today. And really, most of what I find is it's just all for one and one for all. We're all just trying to get it done and do it right. But we're not creating expertise.
Yeah. One of the examples of Mullally he gave up on the stage, and don't quote me on this, but this is how I remember how he said it. They would go into their weekly meetings, right? BPR, business plan review meetings, I think it was. And someone would do something or say something that wasn't right. And so he would follow them back to their office and he would say, hey, can you stop doing that? And sometimes they would say, well, it's what made me successful. This is the way I've always been. He says, well, okay, listen, this is important. If you can't stop doing that, you can't work here.
Hey, he's clear to the point.
And then he'd follow it up with this. Hey, but it doesn't mean that I don't love you as a person. I just want you to know that. So if this doesn't work out, in a sense, so you spread that kind of culture of
no
immediate communicate fast, communicate from a place like I'm caring about you. I'm not talking down to you because, and belittling you, and just be direct to the point.
Yep, correct.
And so that changes cultures, that changes teams.
That's just a big light bulb moment there. So list the three off again. Communicate quickly, immediately.
Yeah.
Come from a place of love, and then be clear and direct and to the point.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal in both business and in your family.
Yeah.
So I know you got a ton of kids. You could write a book on how to raise kids and do that.
Or how not to raise kids.
Exactly.
No, I'm kidding. They're great.
But they are. They really are. But how do you bring that type of thing into your everyday life?
Which type of
like
thing?
Our people are cray. My family is cray, right? You could
right.
But how do you bring those boundaries?
I've given this talk in front of a group of people, big group, and I was just like, hello, my cray friends.
Yeah,
my people are cray. You are my people. And I am your people. So that it's the same concept, like someone says, what do you do? Go ask them about their childhood. I said, no, that would be creepy. But you're going to be sensitive to this is coming out some kind of way. Where's this coming from? It may be that they just found out their child or their wife has cancer, right? Sure. Or it could be physiological where they're sensitive. It could be as simple as being sensitive to sugar or gluten or MSG or something like that screws with their head part of the day, but they're still addicted to it. So there's just all kinds of ways it can come out. And so if we're being the highly functional, emotionally healthy adult, you're staying in that place where you can just go there. Now, I ain't always there. And most people aren't always there. Some people are better at it than others, but you got to get this message out
because it's good, it's helpful, and it's important.
Yeah.
I go back to your working in businesses, and working with the leadership teams.
Yeah.
What else have you picked up and learned from other than their cray?
Yeah. We used to do this where you'd write, okay, right up here on the board, all the things of somebody who you worked with who was a superstar.
Yeah.
Like if you had 30 of these people, you could take over the world. Right. And so Dale Corney would write them all up and they would put stuff like, as empathetic, as driven, as hardworking, as kind, as a great listener. You'd go through all these things. Then you would come back. And so we'd say, okay, is it a skill? Is it an attitude? Or is it based on knowledge, each of these things? Because those are the three key things when we learn. We get knowledge, we gain a skill, it changes our attitude, right?
Yeah, sure.
Every single one almost, like 95% of them are going to be attitude based. So meaning that people, like when you're talking about what makes somebody successful, they're always going to give descriptives almost of attitude. It's not can they do the job well.
Yeah.
It's what's their attitude, because that's their natural thing. If you have somebody in a room who has, like, if having one of these meetings and there's 7-8 people at the table, like a regular EOS quarterly meeting or something like that, and somebody is being negative, super negative, you can see it and you can sense it.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. And then it creates this thing. It's kind of like someone farted in the room because nobody wants to, everybody's like, oh, this is uncomfortable. Nobody wants to call it out. Hey, did you fart?
Yeah, sure.
and then the productivity of the room goes down. So the attitude, so you have to call it out. Say, hey, come see, time out. You look mad as a tiger right now. What's going on?
Yeah,
that's that direct, quick communication of calling out, get the elephant out in the room.
This is a big deal. Mm-hmm. You got to get this word out. How are we going to get this out to the world?
I always be doing EOS so that it just works and it's fun. But on regards to the Cray, I've been working on it for a lot of years, and I'm what's called a high quick start, low follow through. When you do the Colby profile.
Yeah, sure.
And so it's just this is like, let me just go out and give some talks and make a fool out of myself if need be. But let's just start ugly and go and get the message out, and then eventually I'll write a book or do something more formal.
So Mother Teresa used to train her nuns to go out and embrace people and meet people where they are. And so one of the things that she would tell them is to think about how you want them to be different and better before they engaged with them. So how do you leave people different, or try to leave people different and better than before you found them?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example of Mother Teresa. So when I was a kid, I got to meet Mother Teresa.
Oh my goodness.
And, in Baton Rouge. We unloaded her luggage, which were boxes with ropes tied around it. My dad had helped recruit her to come to Baton Rouge to take over an unwed mother's home, as they call it, and a food kitchen and that kind of stuff. And it worked. And she came down, and so we got to meet. But my meeting was with just a second, and she looks up and she you're the only thing that exists when she looks into your eyes. So get ready, right? And so she had that amazing touch. But she was also an amazing leader and led with pure love. Like my dad and the mother superior, like the nun who took care of Mother Teresa, who was kind of a tough woman, they were in an argument.
Oh my God.
And so Mother Teresa walks up, and she's a little tiny woman, and she grabs his hand and he grabs her hand, and she goes, all for Jesus, and just melts them right there. Like,
my goodness.
Yeah, all for Jesus. So in regards to that intense love thing, people can tell if you got it, right?
Yeah.
And even, I'll tell you a story. I met this guy as an older gentleman. It was down at our fishing camp in Morgan City, and it was right at church. And he was walking into church, and he was hobbling, a little kind of like I've been doing the last few days since I hurt my back. Just kind of, you kind of just hobble in and you shuffle. He sees me looking at him because he had he was decorated, all of his, war medals. And he says, I served under General Patton. And no. He kind of gives a couple of quick. And so I waited till after church to say, I'm going to go visit with him. So I said, so what was it about Patton? What was your experience with him? He says, he would run you silly. He would just beat you to, he would just work you. And then he looked at me and he goes, but I love that man. And so there's 1,000 lessons in that one little phrase. No doubt about it. And so when Mother Teresa, she's on a plane with a businessman, and they're having a great conversation, and she challenged him, you got to give till it hurts. You got to love God. You got to serve. After a while, he says, I'm going to donate because everything you gave to her, it went straight to the poor.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
He writes her a check for like $300,000, and she takes it and she looks at it. She's very sweet. And then she gives it back to him and says, that didn't hurt.
Oh my, I got goosebumps, man. That is outstanding.
This is leadership at its finest level, in my opinion. And so they talk some more. And then he writes a check for $1.5 million and gives it to her. And he looks at her in the eyes and he says to her, no, that hurts.
That is great. That is great.
Yeah. So leaving people better is just, you love on them. You're going to want something better for them, and hopefully it'll come out with whatever you do for them.
Thanks so much for tuning in to I Finally Get It. For more information on Jeffrey Benton and what he's got going on, please visit our show notes. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hey, at Company Growth Academy, we've started doing 20-minute teachings. These are 20-minute growth strategies. One time every month. It's easy to get in. Just sign up to be on our advanced notification list. Just go to 20togrow.com, 20togrow.com. If you're an entrepreneur and you have a light bulb moment that could help other entrepreneurs, please email me at jeff@ifinallygetit.com.